Hey guys, Kevin here sharing this sweet little Valentine featuring the Greeting Farm stamps. I've got their Tweety Pie stamp set with some birds, a nice little greeting, a branch, and a heart that I'll be using on today's project. So I've taken this rectangle scallop die and a circle die to cut a little frame for my scene. And now we're going to start the stamping. So I've got my Stampaholic Nano and I've already stamped the branch down. So all we have left to stamp on the card base is these two sweet birds. So I'm just going to place the die cut panel that I cut earlier over the whole card to make sure that I like the spacing and placement of everything. And once I have those birds where I want them, I'm just going to slap down the door and ink them up with Simon Says Stamp Intense Black ink. This is a great ink for Copic coloring, which I'm going to be doing on this card today, as well as watercoloring and other mediums. And the first impression wasn't the best, so I re-inked it up, and using the Stampaholic Nano makes it real easy to get a good impression. So after I've got all those things inked up, I'm just going to start my Copic coloring. And I take all my markers that I think I'm going to use and put them in this mug so I can save time digging through my markers. I've got some YG colors here as well as a light G color to color in my leaves. And since these leaves are so tiny, I'm not going to spend too much time shading them, but I am using 3 different shades of green here. I just took the darkest colors and went down the spine of the leaves as well as some of the shadow areas, and then blended the darkest out with the lighter green, and then to finish it off I'll just use that very light G color to blend everything out. Now that the leaves are done, I'm going to start the branch. And for that, I'm just using 2 colors, this darker brown and then a medium tone. So for the dark brown, I'm just going on the very bottom of the branch where the shadow would be, as well as some of the details of the illustration lines there. And I'm going to take the lighter E color and go over everything to blend it out. Next, I'm going to start on the boy bird. I'm going to use some blue-green colors for him. And I'm going to lay down the first color, which is the darkest, where all the shadows would be, and blend that out with my mid-tone. And I don't want these birds to be too dark, so I'm using very small amount of color with these two. And then finally I'm going to go in with the third color and blend everything out. And then once he's done, I'm going to use those same colors to color the underbelly of the little girl bird here in the same fashion that I colored the other bird. And for the underbelly of the boy bird there, I'm going to use a couple light pink colors as well as a very light purple, which looks pretty pink to me, but it is a V color. So I'm just using the same shading technique, starting with my darkest color and all the nooks and crannies of the birds and underneath their wing. And then I'm going to blend that out with the mid-tone and finally the lightest color. I love coloring small images like this because it doesn't waste lots of ink from your markers, and it's really quick and simple. There's not much to think about with shading and light source and all that kind of stuff. So once I finish up with the light V color, I'm going to grab a couple yellows for their beaks. And since their beaks are pretty tiny, I probably could have just used 1, but I grabbed 2 anyways, so I might as well. I just took the darker yellow around the corners of the beaks and then blended it out with a lighter yellow. So now that all my Copic coloring is done, I'm going to grab the little dotted heart image and put it right in between the birds so it looks like they're in love, since this is a Valentine's Day card. So I just took some abandoned coral distress ink to ink that up and stamped it right in between them. Next I'm going to move on to some simple ink blending, so I just took that die cut frame again and marked off where the bottom of the circle would be. Then I took a round distress ink blending tool, and instead of using the typical circular motions, I'm just starting from the bottom and flicking upwards in more of a swiping motion. I don't want it to be too colorful down there, so I'm using a very light hand. And then once I have enough color onto the card base, I'm just going to take my sentiment here and stamp it onto the die cut frame that we created earlier. I'm using VersaFine Onyx Black for this, so it stamps nice and crisp the first time. And I love punny sentiment, so I just had to use the Hey Tweety Pie on this one. Once that's all stamped down, I'm going to take my ATG gun, which probably wasn't the best idea since this is a pretty narrow frame, so I switched over to a smaller tape runner here. So once I got all the adhesive on there, I'm just going to grab it and put it onto our card base, and as you can see, that circle frames up the scene perfectly. And that will finish off the card. Thanks for stopping by to check out my first video for the greeting farm. Have a great day.